Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for clicking on
Hello.
this podcast. This is
Mhm.
the two alchemists,
Okay.
and I'm Jasmine. I am my Instagram is Sun Pluto Alchemist. I'm a Reiki and mental alchemy practitioner.
And I'm Tonya, the business alchemist on Instagram. I am a business astrologer and coach, and I help soulpreneurs to build the businesses that they love from a authentic space.
Very nice.
So, yes,
So, this podcast, we are going to discuss what spirituality means to you. But because the podcast has become too long, packed with too much content, this will be cut into about 2 to 3 episodes. So, look out for the description below for what we are going to talk about in this episode. Okay, the next
mm,
one we are going to talk about is spiritual practices. Would you like to share
yes.
some of your practices or like approach that helps you, keeps you on this help you along in this journey?
Okay, so yeah, the biggest ones are astrology and human design.
Mm, mm.
So I think it's a common fallacy that people think once you had one astrology reading, that's it. You know, that's all there is. I've learned enough of my birth chart, and that's it. And I can tell you, I've been looking at my birth chart for 4 years now. Don't think I've gotten everything out of it.
Wow.
My
And
teacher actually had
mm,
been doing it for at that time 15 years, 1 5,
wow.
and she said, never stop looking at my chart, never stop learning new things from
Wow.
it either.
I'm just curious, like when will you be sort of like activated to kind of like, hey, let me go look at my chart again to kind of like see something for yourself.
I think some of the times it's because I'm journaling
Mm.
as I'm journaling and reflecting about myself. I'll be asking my questions. I wonder if X, Y, Z. I wonder if I'm like this because of that. And then I go, oh, let's look at the chart now and we see. Or then then maybe certain parts of my chart start to be aware to me and go, oh yeah, this planet is here and that planet is there. And yeah, oh my God, yes, it's in my
Oh,
chart.
I like your nature is so cute.
So that's how the little revelations come to me,
Mm.
either through astrology and through human design as well. More so astrology than human design these days. Yeah.
Ah,
So
okay.
those are the two biggest ones, I suppose. And for me, I guess the thing that usually triggers it is a journal, or it's something that I'm thinking about in the shower, for example. If I'm looking at other spiritual practices and things that I do, like I got my bowls with me. Well, you
Mm.
can't see it in the camera. There's one there. And yeah, I just kind of bring it out and play it to help myself center myself sometimes.
Love it, love
And
it.
sometimes as I'm journaling, I also do what is called mindscape, which is
Mm,
similar to your mental alchemy,
mm.
because basically we know that our subconscious, and this actually helps you to tap into your subconscious, right? And then you start to see images, you start to feel things, and they usually come in a very metaphorical way. You see pictures, you see
Yes,
images,
yes,
you feel things which don't make sense, but it makes sense when you reflect back on it.
yes.
So that's what I use sometimes for self-healing too.
Mm,
And yeah, I guess I also am very grateful because I've got conversations with friends
mm,
who become like my sounding board to help me reflect on things. Friends like you, friends like Sharon,
mm.
friends like Tani as well. And yeah, it's kind of nice that I have these friends too, so, that continue to support me along the
It
way,
is,
not
it is.
everything alone. Yeah. So what
Yeah,
about you? What
I
do
love
you
that.
use the most? What's your most favorite thing?
I love that. I love that. So for me, of course, because I'm a Reiki practitioner, right? So I do daily 1 hour Reiki for myself
It's
as
dedication.
much.
Man.
Yeah, as much as I can lah. I have to say that I try my best to do daily, but if I don't, I'll just try to minimize like this. There will be days where I'm like out full day. That's where I can't lor. But I won't. I won't like kind of like go into this guilt trip mode of like, why
Mm,
didn't I do, just
mm,
it's a 80-20 rule. As much as I can do, I'll do it.
yeah.
I know that I have to, or rather, it's in plans lah for me to do my own channel. I have to do like a explanation of what Reiki is, but I haven't got around to do it. But just to give a little bit of glimpse for anybody who doesn't know what Reiki is out there, basically it's a gentle energy healing modality that kind of like keeps up with, kind of like heals you or like replenish your energy gently
Mm,
depending on what you need at that
mm,
moment. And also that, how life can get to us, I would say that the most important spiritual practice, I would say the same for you and me, is actually to really keep the mind and open mind sorry to really keep the heart and mind open in your
mm,
daily life, like the conversation you have with people, what are the reaction, when do you get triggered, or when do you get like feel comfortable, feel happy, feel nourished, what feeds your soul and stuff like that. And sometimes in those challenging moments where you get like really triggered or you get like really anxious, for example, for me, being with being with family members can be one of the most triggering moments for me. To me, like
mm,
Reiki is like a modality where it helps me to gently feel better and tie things over lah, which is how it works for me. And
mm,
also, like the same with your mindscape, which is kind of like going in deep into the unconscious and have this conversation with ourselves, because
mm,
in daily busy life you might not have enough chances, like for example you cannot really self-soothe yourself in the moments of like triggering moments. So I feel
mm,
like making time for yourself to do mindscape or to do mental alchemy, that is very very important for both of our practices. There'll be like little things where I have cacao once in a while for me to dive deeper
mm.
into myself, coming back into my body. And for me, I channel as well. So I do channel the higher source, and then I do sometimes have like a conversation with him, finding out like how I can do better with my daily practices and my life as well.
Oh, you mentioned him though. It's a him.
I don't know, like it just came out. It wasn't even in my mind that I actually said to you until you pointed it out. So that was cool.
Very interesting. But the channeling that you do, I'm curious. Is it something where you write, or is it something that you hear or feel or see? How does the information come to you?
Yeah, so I think what you're speaking of is kind of like the clairsenses, or some people talk about it as like psychic abilities. So to
Mm-hmm.
just share a little bit, I don't think we shared this before, right? Psychic abilities.
Mm,
No. Okay, so to share like what you said, a lot of us actually possess we do have psychic abilities, I would say. It's just that I think, are you willing? Do you have the intention to really like pay close enough attention to them,
mm,
and also like believing that you have it at the same time? Like for a lot of us, we have it in different forms of ways. So some of us like hear, some of us, like I remember you actually can smell, right, which is quite amazing. Is I think not many people have that. So some people see in their mind's eyes. For
mm.
me, it's actually clairsentience and claircognizance. I would think
So a
those are the
knowing.
words. Yeah, sense of knowing and sense of seeing, but it just comes
Mm,
differently lah every time.
mm,
And also like what you asked, I actually find it hard to journal because I don't have the nicest of handwriting. Whenever I start to write, I will start to judge my own handwriting, then that gets me out of the zone. And also I tend to use my voice more, because to me maybe it felt like it was quicker, so I will have a
yeah.
sense of knowing. I might see something sometimes, but what I have is like a voice recorder. I'll just
Mm.
record lor. So if I need to, then I'll just go refer back lah. That's for me.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've also started to voice log some things
Nice.
because it just kind of comes quite quickly and I don't want to type things out. But
Same.
it's only just it at the beginning stage. I'm still more used to writing and typing things out. Yeah.
Ah,
So we'll
you
see.
have a good handwriting, that's why.
No, I don't.
Oh, you do. I remember I see it somewhere.
Oh,
Okay, I
you mean
just
the
need to.
calligraphy? The calligraphy, right?
Oh yeah, your doodling also is amazing
Okay. Thank you, but that's not my handwriting. My handwriting is illegible.
I
That's
don't
why I
believe
go,
you.
maybe I should not be handwriting anymore.
Next time we exchange, we show each other's our handwriting. It'll
Okay.
be funny.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, just want to add like a little bit before we end this portion about spiritual
Mm-hmm.
practice. So the thing about spiritual practices is not dogmatic. I don't know if I'm using the correct word, in a sense of like, because we are going to come to that part later on where we talk about comparing spirituality and religion. But the thing about spiritual practices is it's definitely not a set of things that you should follow. You have to follow like very strictly. Like just now I was saying, like I try my best to do 1 hour Reiki every day, but I don't guilt trip. I don't feel guilty. I don't like blame go into this self blame mode if I don't. And also whatever we share, right, is kind of like just to give you a little bit of ideas what we do so that you can kind of like form your own practices. And I always feel like the key is to actually whatever you do, sometimes you may, the practices, the approach that you use is going to be different from us. And also at the same
Yes.
time, sometimes when you love certain practices, doesn't mean that sometimes you may fall off the wagon and you just don't feel like doing it entirely. So there'll be like long stretches of time where I just don't feel like journaling, that I just don't feel like
Mm.
meditating, and I'll just go on to
Mm.
like watch Netflix nonstop, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Right?
same
Right.
here. Yes, yes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
So
sometimes it can be as simple as just go for a walk in nature.
yes, exactly, exactly. And sometimes I just lie in the corner and I don't want to move.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
mm,
you don't have to stick to it, right?
exactly, exactly. So it's gonna be different. And also at the same time, don't compare yourself to other people. So just the
Mm.
other day in class, it was so funny because my teacher just mentioned that he went to this meditation workshop, mindfulness meditation workshop. And
Mhm.
what ended up was all of the people in the class are, it's like, hey, I can meditate like 1 hour non-stop. Hey, I can meditate like 1.5 hours. I can it became like a competition.
Competition
It was like are you actually still holding like the meaning of mindfulness?
essence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then it became like, wait, what is going on? So don't fall into that trap. Just pick practices like resonate with you, and you should really your heart should say yes lah. That's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, people do yoga, right? But some people compete about yoga and make themselves pretzels.
Exactly,
So it's
exactly.
like, and if you really are into the whole spiritual element of yoga, it's really not about that, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So there's this really so much about embodying it, about really following what
Yes,
it is,
that's the
rather
word.
than what
Embodying.
is it, what it should be.
Yes, yes, totally, totally.
Mm,
So I just want to
yeah.
like we just put it out there first before we moved on to
Yeah.
the next one.
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
one more thing as well, like I kind of like it, like sometimes before I go to sleep, if I can remember, it's practicing gratitude for the day that just went by.
Mm.
I think sometimes it's actually a very nice thing to fall asleep to as well.
Yeah, that's
Just
very true.
yeah. So I don't remember to do it every time, right? But yeah, when I do remember, it's actually quite nice as well. Just to
Oh,
be
I love
thankful.
it. I think that's the part for me that is actually the hardest to practice because I brought up with a family background that always pay more attention to lack and scarcity, what I don't have rather than what I've gotten. So
Mhm.
sometimes, yeah, I think you brought up a very good point because sometimes like to me, it feels like a struggle to practice this because of how my mind is wired, ma. But at the same
Mhm.
time, this is where I know that this is gonna be important to me because it's gonna bring me to the other side, the opposite spectrum of it. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little muscle that we can continue to exercise. But
Yes.
yeah, absolutely, I can feel you because even for me, there was growing up, there was a lot more focus on what I lacked, on what
Mm,
was not perfect, on what was not good enough, and
mm,
improving on it rather than saying, oh, you're good. It was always
Yeah,
on what you're lacking.
yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
sometimes when like this, right, when the practice feels a bit hard, but again, when it comes back to your heart, not necessarily that it's always going to be easy and smooth, but coming back to your heart is kind of like, you know what, it's going to be a struggle, but I think this is important to me. This is important for me.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Mm. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So we talked about earlier on about how um, spirituality is not religion,
Mm,
right? As far
mm,
as I'm concerned, I know it's not equal religion, and there's a difference between the two,
mm,
right? At least from your perspective, if you don't mind to share first,
mm.
uh, how is it different? What are the differences for you?
Okay, so I just want to say like this is my point of view because I understand how this topic can easily go into a direction of being very touchy lah, and being very I may go into this place of like, you know, you may not agree with me or you may get like offended and stuff like that. I think it's perfectly fine because I feel like we all have different point of view, have different understanding of what is it. So this is just me sharing what I think and what I understand from it.
Mm.
So to me, like, you know how, for example, Christianity is about you know, Jesus, who's the ascended masters. Bud this, is it correct, like Buddhism is about Buddha, you know, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
I see all of this because they are technically they were humans, so I call all of them the ascended masters. So basically they are also born humans just like us, and then they went on a different path, and at a certain point they have gained certain enlightenment, and they are like, you know, proceed no, not proceed, like they have gotten on to a space that they were what they are, what we would recognize them as like ascended masters lah. And of
Mm.
course, even for us, right, in our spiritual journey, we will go explore, we'll go try out different modalities, different approaches, how we, you know, just in a daily aspect of like how we reflect and we became more aware into our actions. And we use different modalities to support, like I use Reiki, you actually use Mindscape and also sound bath, that kind of thing. So
Mm.
when they reach a certain path, right, they'll look back and they'll say like, hey, this is all the values that I hold. This is all the practices, the approach that I use, and then stuff like that. And then what they do is they start to teach people. It's like, hey, these are the approaches that I use. This is, you know, the view of life, the understanding of life. Let me share them with you, and things
Mm.
like that lah. So I
Mm.
think to me, all of them starts from a place of good intention. Up until
Mm.
now, I still feel like religion are still you know, out of good intention.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what a lot of people do right now is kind of like, hey, this is the teaching by this ascended master. You need to practice this. So what a lot of people do is they haven't fully embodied this. They haven't gone through
Mm.
certain experience in life to
Mm.
get there, and then they forcefully force this stuff down your throat.
Mhm.
This is how I feel like about the value side of things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I feel like they don't do things out of ill intention, but it's
Mm.
just that what if I have been force fed by, you know, my senior? This is the way that I do things, that I'm gonna force fed to the next channel, because
Mhm.
how long has
You
this
only know
religion
that.
existed? Yeah, it has been existed for so long, it's been passed down for so long. At a certain point, not saying that every one of the religious people is like that, because I believe some of them will definitely come to the place of like embodiment, understanding. But
Mm.
what if those that are not, they're gonna like, you know, perpetuate the
Mm.
cycle again and
Mhm.
again, and they don't really know what embodying spirituality is like. That's how I
Mm.
see this.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, you what you hit is like it's so spot on. Like it's kind of like imagine you read a book and
Mm,
you read a few passages, and I think there's a difference in how you're actually absorbing the words, right?
mm.
Someone actually reading exactly the same passage as you can really interpret it as something else from what you actually are reading. So maybe you might see it as for what it is in terms of its true essence, and someone else just goes and takes it at a very surface level, and they
Yes,
go,
yes,
okay, I'm going to follow the rule because this book said this, right? I'm just going to do it this way because the
yes,
book says this. And so the actual meaning behind the sentence of or the teaching itself kind of gets lost in translation as well, and
yes.
lost in interpretation too.
Yes,
Mm,
exactly, exactly. Like I was just listening, I was telling you I was listening to this YouTube video earlier, right? About so I don't know if you heard of it. I believe there are some churches, right, saying that if you attend this church, you would have to give 10% of your salary to whatever, like to donate to the church. Lah.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
in and of its essence, it's actually the right practice according to the law of giving and receiving because
Mhm,
you need to give more in order to receive more ma. But what they're doing right now, if I'm not wrong, for certain church that I've heard, is they force it down your throat. Like if you have to come here, you have to give. You have to give. If you don't give, I'm gonna like, pester you until you give. But the thing is, we never really ask careful, like ask more deeper of like, do you actually feel like giving? Do you
mhm,
feel the willingness to do this, even though
mhm,
yes, it's according to the law, it makes sense, it's correct, it's the right thing to do if you want to receive more. But is there any resistance in you? Have we find out more about the resistance or not? Like they don't dive deeper, they just, you what, you have to. This is how I feel that that's where the word dogmatic kicks in, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because you're just following the book and you're just kind of, it's almost like blindly following the rule book.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because I mean, some people who attend the church and they may not actually have as much money as you do, right?
Exactly.
10% of someone's salary can be quite a lot. So why are you forcing it down someone's throat?
Yeah, yeah. Well, to just
Mhm.
add on a little bit more, I heard that if let's say you earn below certain salary, they won't like. In fact, they will like give it back to you. You might have more to gain attending a church because you are belong to like the lower income bracket, for example. But let's
Mhm.
say you're earning more, but you still feel you are not willing to part with the money. Nobody actually dive deeper, but they just tell you that it's mandatory. I think
Mm.
they don't yeah lor, that it's just something doesn't sit right with me making people do this.
Yeah, I mean, you should just give what you feel like giving rather than,
Mm,
oh, everyone gives 10%. It's fair.
yeah, yeah, it's not coming
Yeah.
back to your heart, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. Okay, yeah, I never really thought about it, and I never really wondered if all churches implement that, but that's a good point, I suppose. Good example. Yeah. I think for me, there's a huge distinction between spirituality and religion, because one is more like what I said in the earlier parts of this podcast. It's more about coming home to me, and it's more about me than it is about following a set of given rules or reading a book, or or wise sayings and stuff like that. It's not to say I don't believe in the wise quotes from the Bible or anyone else's writings, but religion to me, I find it difficult to really fully be objective about it myself because I know I have bias. Because this is what I have noticed about many people who practice their
Mm,
religions. And I find it almost like some people do it blindly, with blind faith,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
And allowing an authority figure to have power over them and dictate to them how they should be living their lives. I've seen this a lot of times, and I've listened to sermons before, and I go like, whoa, why would I want to listen to this particular person and let this particular
Mhm.
person tell me exactly how I should live my life?
Exactly,
No way, I'm
exactly.
not going to do that. So that's my initial response to it all. Um, and I guess the other thing I have that I feel is like wrong is how
Mm.
many religions use fear to
Yes,
convince
yes.
that you should be doing something. You're gonna go and burn in hell for doing this. I'm like, what
Right.
kind of God is gonna tell you that you're gonna burn in hell? Seriously?
I don't want that God. Seriously.
Yeah. So, and to be told that if you do this, you get like 100 wives, in your heaven. I can't remember
Oh my
what.
God, I didn't know about that. I feel like that actually sounds familiar. I don't know which religion is it.
I think it was one of those Muslim things for the
Okay.
people who are terrorists and somehow believe in that they will be
Mm.
rewarded when they go to heaven because
Oh, okay, now
they
it
are
sounds
practicing
familiar.
religion.
Mm.
So some people actually believe that, and this is the part where I go, uh, okay, no, I don't believe in that. Um, at the end of the day, we are here on Earth. We are here to be citizens of the Earth here, and we are here to learn lessons, and we're here to, yeah, learn from our stuff and try to be a better human being.
Yes, yes,
It's not about what's
exactly.
going to happen after. It's about what's happening right now. So yes, this is me, and I'm like, okay, no, I don't do religion as it is, but I know that there are some churches and some other religions that are much more forgiving and much more compassionate in their approach and much more holistic, I'm sure.
Mm. Mm.
Um, but I still feel that the principles that maybe some of them apply are very similar to the way I apply my principles in what I
Mm.
do in life anyway. So I don't see the difference. I don't feel a need to go to one God or another God because
Mm.
God's everywhere. So to me, it's like, why should you fight over which God is right, which God is wrong, which God is better than
Mm.
the other? I don't want to fight about that. And I'm like, okay, you just go with whatever, it resonates with you at the end of the
Yes,
day.
yes. It has to feel right and be truth in your heart before
Mm,
you say yes to something lah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So yeah, so I think some people when they ask like, oh, I feel more resonated with this religion. Like I've known people who are like, they are like Buddhists and stuff like that. I said that, no religion are wrong. It's some like you say, some churches they just feels very bypassy, or they just kind of like control you with fear. But again, they are not all churches or all temples or like all religious people are like that. I feel like it may be really helpful for someone if, let's say, the value that you hold, the belief that you hold, and also the practices and approach that you would like to use, right, are actually very similar to some of the religion, and you would
mm,
like to join them. I feel like it's beneficial in terms of like most of the religion, what they have is like they have a huge community, and I would say like it actually does feel different if you are actively involved, or like you have around people around to really support you through your journey and stuff like that, and you don't feel as lonely. I think that's very helpful. But again, it's always coming like the what we said at the start. It still stand true. You have to always come back to your art and say like, and ask, does it feel right for me? Does the
mm,
people around me feels right? That approaches feels right? Do they like guilt trip me, or like make me, instill fear in me if I just fall off like one practice and stuff like that? Because if it doesn't, then maybe it's time
mm.
to really leave lah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really about discernment more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just about to say that I think
Mm.
you can be spiritual and you can be
Mm.
religious at the same time, but you can equally
Yes.
be spiritual but not religious at the same time.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that. I love that statement. I love
Yeah,
that statement.
yeah.
Um, so I recently also hear something that is very, very, very true lah. Is that what they say is religion is about faith, whereas spirituality is about knowing. Like you have experienced it, you have gone through certain things, you don't need to have faith for the uncertainty because you have gone through certain things. I really like that,
Mm,
and that brings me to like the story I want to share next is. So I have quite a few people in my life who are atheists, who
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that God exists. Everything is at random. Whatever you see is whatever you get.
Mm-hmm.
And when I, talk to them a little bit more and understand their background and stuff, right? Is that most of them, their background, they actually come from a religious background where their parents, their family have like great faith in religion, and they go like, churches religionly, and they always say like have faith, and
Mm-hmm.
it probably made it exceptionally worse when they were going through a very challenging period where they like really struggle. And then when they talk to their parents, right, they were saying like, oh, you let's have faith that this will tie true, let's have faith, but things just got worse and worse. And it just feels like even though I kept doing what God tell me to do, even though I kept, trying to be like the best kid, the best child ever, but things just never get better for me lah. And most of the time, when smarter kids, right, they will start to ask question, why does this happen to me? Why does it not happen to another family? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and your parents tell you say that stop questioning, don't ask, just do, just have faith, and then the experience just got worse and worse, right? That's where I
Mm-hmm.
feel like these people fall into this mode where like, you know what, it's proven. Like I've experienced it, God doesn't exist. Source doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist. It is just what it is. I have to fight for myself. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this kind of people will fall into being an atheist lah overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I mean, in a way, their experiences have also shaped their beliefs.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the people I know who've faced that sort of that side of religion, at least the few that I know, have become very spiritual people.
Oh, would you like to
It's
share more? Like how did they actually fall into atheist before becoming spiritual?
I don't know. I didn't speak about all of this to such great level with them, but I just know
Hmm.
that they're like, yeah, my family is very, very religious. They are so much about
Um,
Christianity and the church and so on, but I don't believe so much in what they're talking about. And I feel that everything has meaning in life. There's the universe, there's channeling, there's
mm,
energy, there's the universe,
mm.
there are plants. So there's a lot of other stuff, not just Jesus Christ, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. There's so much more.
Yes,
And
exactly,
that's when
exactly.
they started to look at it in a more, I guess, a wider perspective of things for their
Oh,
spirituality.
oh wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I
very,
guess
very
I
interesting.
I guess that's where you see like really everybody's like journey is just different, unique. And I always feel like even though you fall into, not saying that spirituality is the only way to go, but again, sometimes you felt like you need to fall onto the opposite spectrum to really understand like, hey, this doesn't feel right. You need to know what doesn't feel right before you can come into a space of like this feels right.
Mhm.
So I guess every part of the process is equally important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Every part of the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about impact on our life. Like how has
Yeah.
incorporating spirituality in your life, like what has changed? How has it impacted your life?
Wow. I think for me, because it was a sudden shift in my life where I moved from almost being very atheist about things to
Mm.
someone who's very spiritual, I would say my life actually like did a 180-degree turn as well.
Wow.
Like my personal growth was like leaps and bounds. Um, I remember also coming across people that were coaches in early on in my journey, and when I talked to them about stuff, this was probably 1 year, two
Mm.
years into my journey, and they were like, the insights you have are very profound. I go, huh, really? I was like, okay, I'm very new to this, but they're like, no, you have very, very profound insights, and I go, okay. So I would say yes, it felt like I was doing catch up After 40 plus years, I was doing
Wow.
catch up. I caught up very quickly. Um, because I'm so much more aware of what's going on in my heart, in my mind, in my thoughts, and so I guess it kind of helped me to recalibrate faster as well.
Mm,
I think in terms of my life, where I saw the shifts were like also changes in my own friendships,
mm,
right? Initially, a lot of my friendships when I was young didn't really stick. I was very disappointed with many of them.
mm,
But I think when I switched over, the first loving, open, kind friendships that I had started happening
mm.
around 2018. I think that was when I met Sharon for the first time too.
Wow.
So I think for us both, it was a very different era that we both went through things together, and it's really a very solid kind of friendship that we had, where I was accepted for who I was, and this is like after a whole long string, right, of very very disappointing friendships from when I was young.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess the relationship with my own family has also changed. um it's not really that things have gotten better for them, but
Mm,
it's more that I'm willing to place boundaries for myself. So I'm not
mm,
willing to accept certain things. I'm not willing to go and try to meet their expectations. I know they're not happy, but I'm willing to voice it out for myself, and therefore I'm
mm.
happier in this sense.
I love that. I love that.
So I'm caring a lot less about what other people think, and just going with what is right for me, what's true to me. I think
Yes.
it takes courage, but at the same time, it's a muscle that you can exercise. Yeah. So lots of changes, I suppose, over the years. I don't even see it as a change anymore. I'm living in this life that I kind of have forgotten my
It's
my
just a
old.
lifestyle now, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's normal.
Yeah. I think you're exactly
Yeah.
right. Because when I was like pondering on this question last night, I was like, impact on my life. I don't know how to say this anymore because at some certain point, I also felt like I've been transforming and transforming and transforming until
Mm-hmm.
exactly like what you said. It simply felt like it's something that you incorporate to your life already. When I see something, I reflect, then I quickly shift. I mean, I don't force myself to quickly shift, but I see something, I shift, and then the next thing I know, I see the next thing, and then I shift again.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, and I feel like I do see, because whatever is within, right, it's gonna reflect externally as well. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like for you, you said that there's a shift in the people you surround yourself with. That
Mm-hmm.
there's Sharon, there's like me, there's like you for me, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it just happens before you realize it. Then when you look back, when you reflect, you was like, oh my god, the
Yeah.
reality starts to shift.
Yeah.
It's just crazy lah sometimes when I reflect and when I think about it, especially when I compare it to what kind of people that I surround myself with and what kind of person was I in the past. Like I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
are we work through the same thing, or rather we may still be working through it, about like setting boundaries, understanding exactly what we want, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
also saw myself as
Mm,
someone who was very negative. So I used to come back from work, like this is the
mm.
old me. I would come back from work, and in the car on the way back from work, I would be complaining to my husband about my
Same,
life,
same.
about my work. I complain and complain and complain and complain and complain, and be like, oh, this is not someone I actually like. No, but I
Yeah,
was very negative before this, very, very negative. And now it's so much easier to just see the positive side, the bright
right.
side, just to open up. It's such a huge shift in in
Yeah,
in in my own thoughts as well, and my mindset.
exactly. Oh, I love that because I was also like a person who I just blame everything. Like I just feel like it's nothing is my fault. It's just my life. I mean, true, I would say like yes to a certain extent, but you are what you are, and therefore you attract all of these negative
Mm,
circumstances in your life, right? I'm not gonna
mm,
try to justify and say like, you know what, it's just that you're not seeing it through. But sometimes it can be that the circumstances are bad, but whatever we need to do is we need to really look inside first and understand what kind of person we are. Is it because I'm afraid of standing up for myself, and which is why I attracted so many people in my life that just keep violating my boundary? Like, why did I not say no to all these people? Why did I allow that to happen? Like, at some point we need to see it as like, we have a part to play, which is
Mm.
it changes, like it changed for me lah. And
Yeah.
also I always feel like there is always, let me think, like the external, like for example for me is because at some point I tell myself like I don't want to resign to fate. I like, there are
Mhm.
people in my life who say like, you know what, life is just like that, you just have to accept it for it is law. And this rebellious side of me is like, no, like I have to, no, I don't want to accept it like that. I want
Yeah.
life to be better, which is why I feel like I rabbit hole it like into this thing lah.
Mm.
But
Mm.
what I realized and what I observed through this journey is also that, like, for example, for me, my motivation was because I want to change my external reality. But what
Mm.
I observed is, number one, you need to do inner shifts, inner work
Mm.
first. And number two, even after you do inner work, right, the external reality that you are seeking for may not shift that fast,
Mm.
which is, I think, a lot. I mean, this is probably a little bit off topic, but I think we need to, I just want to say it out there lah. And
Mm.
also at the same time, right, surprisingly, most of the time what I realize is, even though I may want something to change externally, sometimes
Mhm.
when I change internally already, right,
Yeah.
I have no desire for the external reality to shift anymore, because I feel like I'm able to handle it. I feel like,
Mm.
I just feel better. I don't need I don't need that thing to change to stop triggering me, because I stop feeling the triggers anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Right,
amazing. Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
think,
You
yeah,
wanted it to change in the first place because it was triggering you and making you feel bad.
yes,
But now that you're not feeling bad about it, then there's no point in changing it in the first place.
exactly, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And I
Mhm.
heard this story before, which was quite amazing, and it took me a while to really understand. But now
Mm.
that I look back, I totally know what it means now. So the story is that, so there's this countryside place where there were quite a number of fishermen that just sat around, I don't know, having beer or just chilling, just having a casual
Mhm.
conversation. And then
Okay.
there was this millionaire man who went to this countryside for like a holiday, and he just walked over to this fisherman and say like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And the fisherman said that, "You know what, I caught enough fishes to sell for the
Mm.
day that
Mhm.
help to maintain my today's living expenses. We're just chilling lor."
Mm.
Then the millionaire was like, "But y'all got so much time on hand. Why don't y'all work harder? Like, why
Mhm.
don't y'all, like, I have a plan in mind, because you know what, I'm a millionaire, ma, so I've done this for myself before. So why don't y'all, like, just go work a little bit harder,
Mm.
earn a little bit more by catching more fishes? And when you got
Mhm.
enough funding, you can set up this company, you can hire
Mm.
fishermen to do the job for you.
Mhm.
You're gonna set up this whole new operation. You're gonna be millionaire just like me." And
Mm.
then the fisherman asked, "After we become millionaire, then what?" Then
Mm.
the millionaire said, "Then you all can take holidays like me lah, to come to this countryside to go fishing lor." Then the fisherman said that, "Isn't that what we are
What we're
doing
doing already.
exactly right now?" Yeah, so it's very funny, because it was at that point, because that it is such a simple story, but I feel like there is so much
Mm.
depth to it, because most of the time I realize about this work, that this inner shift, this spirituality work that we do, right?
Yeah.
We somehow, the external actions, the actions that we do, like, even though I'm awakened, I still need to do laundry. I still need to
Mm.
sleep. I still need to exercise. They're
Yeah.
those mundane things.
Yeah.
Externally, or it's probably gonna look the same most of the time.
Mm.
It's not
Mm.
going to be like big shifts. It's not gonna be, say that you are gonna be, wow, this, I don't know, the next Nicholas Tesla, the next Elon Musk, or whatever, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes this
Mhm.
inner shift is so profound, it's so leaps and
Mhm.
bounds, but externally nobody can tell. And this is how I feel,
Yeah.
how it impacts
Oh,
me.
yeah. I guess that kind of makes sense as well. But I mean, the story also actually kind of shows it's like, what's the point of chasing after that thing, right?
Exactly.
Really, when all
Exactly.
you want is actually this thing that's in front of you already. What's the point of
Yeah.
chasing after and following what other people are talking about, earning more money and so on? Because
Mm.
you already have what you want.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly. I love that story.
Okay, hello. I'm Tonya, the business alchemist, and
And this is Jasmine. I'm a Reiki and mentor alchemy practitioner. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for listening, and do look out for the next episode, and more for our discussions on what spirituality means to you. Bye for now.